Maybe you think or you feel like you are in the dark night of the soul, and you're wondering what are some signs that could indicate that you are in the dark night of the soul. Maybe just looking for some confirmation, and this video is going to resonate with you. I've gone through the dark night of the soul twice, and the last dark night of the soul that I've gone through, it lasted for over 3 years, and I just came out of it like last year December. And today I'm going to be sharing with you some of the signs that could indicate that you are somebody who's experiencing this dark night of the soul, and what are some of the ways in which you can manage through, what are some of the things you can do that will really help you through this process. So the dark night of the soul is a very intense period of transformation. It is truly this time where you find yourself going from being a caterpillar to a butterfly. And that process of really going from being a caterpillar to a butterfly can be a very painful one. And the dark night of the soul is exactly as its name, dark night, which means you experience a lot of darkness. But most importantly, it's a time of intense transformation. I think that we change and grow the most during our dark night of the soul period. And for me, I've had two dark nights of the soul. One that happened for maybe 7 years of my life, and then another one that I recently came out of that lasted for 3 years. And I can definitely say that each dark night of the soul are very different. However, the thematic is the same. It's there to help you change and evolve and to grow you in some way or the other. And so the dark night of the soul process can be very, very intense. It can be a time where you actually feel like a part of you is dying. It can feel like you are losing yourself or losing who you thought you were, to only find and gain a better understanding of who you are on the inside. And that is the purpose of the dark night of the soul. It's to really get us to look inward and to really pay attention to something that maybe we have been missing our entire life. And so today we are talking about what are the signs that could indicate that you are somebody who's in the process of intense transformation. So the dark night of the soul can happen to any one of us. A lot of times it does happen to people who are on the spiritual journey, as it is meant to really shake us up and to get us to realize who we are spiritually. And that is always oftentimes the purpose of a dark night of the soul. Now, dark night of the soul can last years, they can last a week, they can last a day, they can last an hour. However, the period of time that a dark night of the soul may last, it is still very, very intense and very scary and very dark. And oftentimes, a dark night of the soul can be initiated by something traumatic, or it can be initiated by maybe even following your intuition, jumping into the unknown, taking a leap of faith. It can be initiated through various different ways. But no matter how it's been initiated in your life, understanding that right now you are somebody who's going through an intense period of transformation can really help to gain some sort of peace of mind. So the first sign that you are experiencing the dark night of the soul is that you really feel lost, you feel scared, you feel lonely. Feeling lost right now because you find yourself in the deep unknown. And I remember for myself a couple of years ago at the beginning of my dark night of the soul, the one that just lasted for 3 years and I just recently came out of. I remember in the first phase I felt very, very lost and scared, not knowing what's going to happen because I found myself in the unknown, and it freaked my mind out a lot. It freaked me out. And the thing about being in the unknown is that it might be unknown to our minds, but our heart knows exactly the type of experience it needs to give us in order to help us change and grow in a certain way and understand certain things about ourselves. So first of all, understanding that right now you might find yourself in the unknown and feeling lost is really a part of it. You might find that there must be so much of anxiety about the future. You just don't understand where this path is leading. You don't know how are you going to manage like next month or next year. It's so scary. And that feeling, I remember feeling it so intensely. And the thing about being in the unknown is that you just need to be able to take one step at a time, taking the most, I would say, aligned and intuitive step one step at a time. Remember that all you need to do here is just to remember to take the next right step, or just take that into a step. Once you take that step, the next step comes, and it's very important to remember that when you feel this way. The second sign in a dark night of the soul is that you experience intense ascension symptoms, like very, very intense ascension symptoms, to a point where you might think, am I going to be okay? Should I go to the doctor? Like, what is actually happening to me? Ascension symptoms happen when we are ascending, when we're going through the process of ascending. And what tends to happen in the dark night of the soul, the dark night of the soul is all about really helping us to ascend, really assisting us to really go into a very different vibration and to really change into a different version of ourselves. And the ascension symptoms are a byproduct of going through the ascension process. And you'll find that when you experience an ascension symptom, they're so different. However, they really seem very intense and they can really, really affect us a lot. These ascension symptoms really help us to shed a lot of the density that we might be carrying, trying to carry forth, but now we need to really shed that and let that go. And so you'll find that you might be experiencing a lot of ascension symptoms. Ascension symptoms vary. You'll find that you might go through headaches, tummy issues, body pains, and extreme fatigue. I know for me, one of the most intense ascension symptom that I've ever experienced was having the ascension flu, which would last like 24 hours, and also experiencing intense fatigue to a point where I could not really walk. It felt like my entire body is like a rock. And those, experiencing those type of things is a very normal type of experience for somebody who's going through the ascension process. It's very important that when you're experiencing these type of ascension symptoms, it's very important to be able to discern between whether you should go and see a medical practitioner or you should just sit with this. And if you are reading into the fact that this could be an ascension symptom, then it's very important to really allow it to pass by, because they come and go. Ascension symptoms come and go, and over time you start to experience lesser and lesser of it, because you start to shed the density and you start to carry less density as time goes on. So you'll find that you might be experiencing a lot of ascension symptoms, and right now more than ever they can be very, very intense. The third sign is feeling like you are being cleansed, feeling like you are going through a period of intense cleansing, where it feels like everything that you've been carrying around, maybe things like from your childhood or things that has happened to you prior to the dark night of the soul, you were able to sort of numb it or run away from it. But in the dark night of the soul, it's very difficult for us to do that, because energetically things are going to come up to the surface, and you're going to have to purge in one way or the other. This is something that we are kind of forced to do when we go through the dark night of the soul. It's not something that we can choose to do. I realize this the hard way, is that we are really forced to go through and purge, to just really, really, release all the things that we have been carrying around. The past, if you have had any traumas and you've not really sat with it and dealt with it, in the dark night of the soul, you're going to come face to face with it. You're going to come face to face with a lot of your fears, a lot of your shadow side, a lot of the darkness that you may be carrying around within yourself, as well as becoming open to the light as well. So it's very important to realize that, right now you are going through this intense period of cleansing, and this is all to really benefit you, so that you can really carry a higher vibration version of yourself when you come out of it. And what this helps us do is to really let go of a lot of the baggage, to really let go of a lot of the weight that we've been carrying around. And it can be a very scary process to purge, because purging can happen in different ways for everyone. It's very different. It really varies. I remember for me, when it comes to purging, I used to really feel nauseous, and I used to want to really sit down and really cry, and I was an emotional wreck most of the time when this used to happen. I used to find myself a lot of times on the floor sobbing and crying for maybe the entire day, and it will take me at least an entire 2 or 3 days to recover from that and gain my energy back. It was really a very intense process, and this is a type of thing that it really requires us to be very strong, because we are really having to relive a lot of the things that we've gone through. Maybe not even in this lifetime, maybe in other lifetimes as well. Now it's coming up, and it's really requiring you to release and to purge it once and for all. And this is what the Dark Night of the Soul is all about, is finally letting go of anything that we are carrying around energetically, so that we can make space for the version of us that is yet to be born. Spiritual depression tends to happen when we don't understand who we are. We find ourselves feeling very miserable and feeling like, I just don't know what my purpose is. I don't know why I'm experiencing all of these things spiritually, and it's so intense. I just cannot figure out this path. You might also find that you might be experiencing extreme anxiety at this time, where it's very difficult for you to, even go out in public and to be around other people, because within yourself there's so much that's happening. There's like a turmoil that's happening, and it can feel like a lot, because we are required as human beings to go out and associate and, to do the things that we need to do on a daily basis, while experiencing all of this, while experiencing like our insides are just feeling so poisoned and feeling so dark on the inside. And that's exactly how it has felt for me. I know that the second Dark Night of the Soul was very, very intense, where it felt like I just could not be at ease. It was just like a lot of like, uneasiness and feeling very miserable on the inside. So we tend to become more sensitive as we tend to shed more and more of the density, and as we start to really incorporate more of our higher self. So you'll find that, you might be experiencing a lot of spiritual depression during this time, and a lot of anxiety. And spiritual depression is very different from normal depression, because it's very spiritually related. It has a lot to do with feeling like you just need to find the truth. You cannot rest until you really find out who you are and find your path and really understand who you are on a deeper, profound level. The last time I'm going through a dark episode is that you might find yourself experiencing a little bit of being cut off from your spirituality, being cut off from like your intuition, being cut off from your spirit guides, or being cut off from everything that has really made you feel more centered or at peace, or really allowed you to connect on the inside with something greater than yourself. It's very difficult for you in this time to connect with it. I remember for me, I used to do a lot of Reiki, but when it came to going to the dark night of the soul, it felt like I could not do that any longer. It was very difficult for me to connect back with that energy and to really start to do Reiki again. And for like a year and a half, it felt like I just could not tap back in to my, the spiritual side of myself. I couldn't really like communicate with my spirit guides as easily as it used to be before. I was struggling a lot. I remember I could do Reiki before, but suddenly that was cut off. And it really felt like the light was just shut off. Like all of a sudden, the light that I was experiencing before being in Dark Night of the Soul was now being turned off. I remember for me, it wasn't just not being able to do Reiki, it was also not being able to tap back into my intuition. Like my intuition was there, but it was not as strong as it used to be. It really felt like all the things that I was experiencing before the Dark Night of the Soul, it was very difficult for me to tap back into it. And I remember I struggled with this for at least a year, and it was very challenging and very difficult. And for me, I started to understand through that process that what happened was, when I started to experience the dark night of the soul, having no contact, not being able to tap in spiritually, gave me the understanding that there's a lot of work that I have to do. There's a lot of things that I need to work through here in order for me to come back and to really tap back into all my intuition and everything. There was a lot of work that needed to be done. There was a lot of shadow work that was in the way. And when I started to work through those things, I started to understand that, I started to become much more tapped in. And I know that you might be experiencing this right now in the dark night of the soul, where it feels like 1 minute you are very tapped in, the next minute it's completely cut off, where it feels like, whoa, what's going on here? I was really, in touch with my spirit guides. I could really feel that, but now there's no connection there. Or maybe you were experiencing a lot of your spiritual gifts, but now it feels like you are not able to. And the thing about this experience is that it really teaches us that when we go to the dark night of the soul, having those experiences before going to the dark night of the soul gives us a lot of trust and faith that there is something out there that's greater than ourselves, and that is available for us. But when we go through a process of losing touch or getting in touch with that part, it can really freak us out. And you really start to ask yourself, am I ever going to really feel that way that I did before my dark night of the soul? Am I ever going to feel the peace, or am I ever going to feel connected back and in touch with my guides? And the thing is that sometimes when we go through the dark night of the soul, having no contact, having been cut off spiritually, really allows us to look inward and to really look into something that we have not been looking at. Oftentimes we rely on these things. We rely on being, in touch with our spirit guides, and we rely a lot on our spiritual gifts. But what happens when we don't have that is that we start to really go inward. And that's the whole point of the dark night of the soul, to really make you look inside. And from there, outwardly, form that trust and faith in the universe. Now we're going to talk about how do we manage going through the dark night of the soul. What are some of the things we can do? There are some things I've done that I've found that has really helped me a lot during the dark night of the soul. And I think one of the main things for me was developing a spiritual practice. A spiritual practice is truly anything that you can do that really helps you to become more present. Just really helps you to calm your mind down and to be more present, be in the here and the now. And for me, yoga and meditation has been that type of thing. And I remember there were some days that when I was in the dark night of the soul, I used to do my spiritual practice in the morning and in the afternoon, because it was very intense. There were some days that were very intense, much more than others, and that needed to be done. And for me, yoga and meditation has been truly helpful in allowing me to, go through this process with much more ease. Just having something, having like a practice set in place that I know I'm going to do regardless of how I feel or whatever happens. I know that this is something I'm going to do, has really helped me a lot. So I definitely would recommend you start to, venture into finding something that really works for you, anything that really connects you with presence, anything that feels really good, anything that feels really right, and aligned. Finding that, sticking to it, trying to do it whenever you feel like, it feels like I feel lost today, or it feels like this day is very intense, and I feel a lot. So having a spiritual practice can really help with it. The second way is to really listen to your intuition. Our intuition can get us out of the dark night of the soul if we really pay attention to it. As I mentioned, we might feel very cut off from our intuition, but some of us might find that our intuition comes on here and there, and some days it's much more clear than others. And when it does, when it feels like your intuition is guiding you, listen to it and really understand that your intuition can really get you out of the dark night of the soul. Just taking, as I mentioned, one step at a time. Your intuition is going to guide you like that. It's just going to give you the next step. Just following that one step at a time is going to really get you out of the dark night of the soul. That has been something that has really helped me a lot, is understanding that even though everything might seem dark, and even though I feel a lot, I feel heavy, and I feel like I just don't know where this path is headed or why I'm experiencing the things I'm experiencing, I still have an intuition that's saying everything is going to be okay. As long as I keep taking the steps, I will be able to come out of this. It will be able to drive me out of this at some point. I just have to be brave enough to take those steps. And I think that a lot of us start to understand that there is something really powerful within us, an inner guidance system coming from ourselves on the inside, that's going to really help us through this process. We are never alone, even in the dark night of the soul. Even though it might feel like that sometimes, we are still never alone. There is always something there to guide us out of this process, because our soul knows exactly what it needs to do in order to get us out of the next thing was to practice surrender. Surrender can be such a powerful way in order to really navigate the dark night of the soul, just by surrendering within yourself, not really giving up, but really allowing the process to go through you, to flow through you, instead of resisting it. And for me, I remember feeling so much of resistance when it came to experiencing the dark night of the soul, that surrender was one of the ways to really help me to understand that whatever is happening right now, I can really let it pass through me. I can really let it be experienced rather than resisting it. When we accept what's happening and we allow it to pass through us, we really allow ourselves to experience less resistance. And experiencing less resistance will help a lot, because many of us might find ourselves really resisting this process that's happening. And it's very normal and natural to resist what's going on. However, surrender can be a very powerful way to get us out into really accepting what's going on. Okay, so a book that I would definitely recommend here is The Surrender Experiment. That book really came to me when I was in the dark night of the soul and really, struggling a lot with surrender and letting go and really accepting what was happening. So The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer, that is a lovely book if you are somebody who really wants to understand more about surrender and how you can live from a surrendered place, especially in the dark night of the soul, then I would definitely recommend reading that book. Remember that if you're going through the dark night of the soul, you are never alone. There's always a part of you that, has given you this experience for a reason. You are experiencing it for a reason, to grow and to become a whole different version of yourself when all of this is said and done. And just remember that when it feels like you just cannot see a way through, just taking the next step is very, very important. That is how it's going to really illuminate the rest of your path that you have to walk. I know that it can feel like a very pathless path that we might be walking, but it's very important that we go inward and we pay attention to a voice within ourselves that's guiding us through this process. If you are somebody right now who's in the dark night of the soul and maybe you need a guide or you need somebody to help you through this process, I do offer one-on-one coaching sessions. You can find more information in the description down below. I also offer these free demo coaching sessions that is available on the first Sunday of every month, and you'll find more information about that in the link down in the description. If you are interested in that, you can sign up. Those sessions are free to join and enter. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you so much for receiving. I hope that what I shared has resonated with you in some way or the other. Maybe, comment down below some of the things that you've experienced in dark night of the soul. How is your dark night of the soul going right now for you? Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you so much for receiving. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.